Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Good morning. Today's video, I'd like to talk a little bit more about some of the things I talked about in yesterday's video, the video I recorded on September 10th of 2025. In that video, I talked a little bit about how we end war. How do we overcome the fights and the conflicts? How do we overcome the darkness that's around us? How do we, basically turn the swords into pruning shears? How do we actually do these impossible things? And as I was giving an analogy, I talked about how one example is the difference between the far right and the far left in politics. And one of the things I said was that unless the far right is able to understand the arguments of the far left, that we wouldn't be able to end wars. And I meant to add on that unless the far left understands the arguments of the far right, we can't end the war. So it isn't just the far right. And so I'm not putting the right at fault. And I just want to make that perfectly clear, especially in light of the fact that after I recorded that video, the political commentator Charlie Kirk was shot, was assassinated. The wars that we are having, the conflict we are having specifically right now in the United States between right and left, it is not the fault of the right, and it's not the fault of the left. I do not want people thinking that only one party is at fault. I realize that there's a lot of commentary out there that is trying to put all the blame on the other side. And, if I'm being perfectly honest, I can definitely see the reason why that's so appealing. I can definitely see some problems that have developed over my lifetime, and I can see some of the issues that we have faced. But that is not a single party problem. I don't honestly believe that these two parties are at war with each other. I believe that there is somebody that wants us to be at war with each other. I believe that the forces of darkness, demonkind, just like if an angel born on earth into mankind is still angel kind, then darkness born into mankind would still be demonkind. I guess you could say light kind and darkness kind. It really feels like somebody's pulling the strings and trying to get us to be in conflict. I really feel like there has been something good that has happened that is trying to bring us closer to light and bring out and reveal the darkness that has existed within our government and with the government agencies and different things like that. But I want to emphasize that in order for two people who are at war with each other to stop fighting, both people have to have enough desire to understand the other person's viewpoint just to even have a conversation, just to stop fighting and begin conversing. And so I felt like the timing of my video and some of the things I said was somewhat in bad taste, but I didn't just want to pull the video down. I have not been using cuts or editing these videos in any way, and I just want you to see the raw footage. Just, this is who I am, and I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm going to say things that are wrong. I really felt like I understood some things, and then I started making these videos, and God said, that was a step, and here's the next step. And it's difficult sometimes to climb those steps. And some of the things that God wants to teach us can be really difficult to understand. Now, another thing I talked about yesterday that I want to make sure that I give more clarification to is you have well, first, when you look at Genesis chapter 1, and it says first day, second day, third day, it is not a 24-hour period. I don't believe it's a 24-hour period at all. And I think, sunset to sunset is a reference to a cycle. It is the cycle of the day. And we see that with the sun every day. We see a cycle of a day. But it is more about an order of events than it is how long it took for each of those events to take place. And one analogy I'd like to share is, if somebody were to decide to build a multi-billion-dollar skyscraper, the first step wouldn't be pouring concrete. You have to really think about everything that went into the building of that structure. You have to go back and get permits. You have to go through planning and zoning. You have to do samples of the ground to see if it'll support the structure. You have to look at the other buildings around the place you want to build to make sure that you're building appropriately. Imagine going out to the middle of nowhere in Wyoming and putting a huge skyscraper up. What's that benefit? Who's it going to benefit? Who'd even live in it, or who would work in it? It would serve such a nothing purpose if it was in the middle of nowhere. And so you have to go through a lot of research. You also have to pull in partners, and you have to, before you can get lending, they have to have some kind of verification that there's a plan in place. And just think about everything that would go into building a structure like that. Why do we think this world would take anything less? So when you look at that first cycle of time, and the Ruach Elohim is standing above the darkness over the great deep, and says, "Let there be light," and you go through and saw the light, that the light was good. And it could have taken 1,000 years. It could have taken a very significant amount of time to gather that darkness, go around, gain volunteers from the light to actually go and participate in this grand project. And so I just want you to think about how God does things in a natural way. We've got to stop thinking about heaven and God and God's heavens as this fairy tale kingdom where there's no such thing as the laws of physics or research or technology or any of that. We need to start thinking about heaven as just the most technologically advanced organization, people that has ever existed. The technology that exists that we don't know about is baffling. And so we need to be thinking about it in those terms rather than like some fairy tale thing. You have to consider that people didn't comprehend artificial intelligence. They didn't comprehend the technology we have today. If you'd gone back 100 years, could you imagine telling them 100 years ago what technology would have today, the things that we could do today? They would think you were nuts. And the difference between us and what heaven has is far, far, far greater than the difference between us and 100 years ago. There's not even really a comparison. It's such a vast difference. So think about it not in terms of days, but in terms of cycles, right? We're going to do this in this phase, then we're going to do this, then this, then this, and this, and this. And it's a process. And so one of the things that's kind of neat is if you take a day, a month, and a year. A day you have midnight, you have sunrise, sunset, and you have noon. A month you have new moon, full moon, and the waxing crescent and the waning crescent. The order's out, I apologize. And then with the year you have winter solstice, summer solstice, spring equinox, fall equinox, right? Fall equinox would line up with waning crescent and would line up with sunset. Okay, so if you take winter solstice, winter solstice, new moon, and midnight, okay, they line up, and you cut that line in that circle and you just spread it out flat, and you've got yourself a nice little number line, and you've got at both ends of that number line, you've got winter solstice, midnight, and sunset, both ends. And in the center of that line, you've got summer solstice, full moon, and noon. Okay, the brightest point and then the darkest points. Everything that a war is fought over, every time there's a conflict with ideas, and you look at the far right and the far left, between midnight and sunset, well, between sunset and midnight and sunrise, right? You've got darkness. And then between sunrise and sunset, you've got light of varying degrees. We cannot have a conversation if we are stuck in the darkness. So you have to move towards the sunset, and you have to move towards the sunrise. Or you have to move from the darkness towards the sunset, right? And you have to move from the darkness towards sunrise, right? I don't know. I'm probably making this too complicated. Let's just say 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. At 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., that's where the magic can begin to happen. That's where you can start to see light, right? You can start to understand the opposing viewpoints. And as you work to better understand the opposing viewpoint, and then also, can you understand how they see you, how they see your viewpoints? Do they really understand what your thought process and what your viewpoints are? Do you really understand what their viewpoints are? And as you begin to communicate and work towards each other, that's when you're going to find God. That's when you're going to find the greatest light that has ever existed and ever will exist. Now, there is evil that exists in the world. The role of adversity is to tempt the darkness to do good and to tempt the light to do evil. And this is what creates agency. This is what creates free will. And it's not like if somebody is 75% good, they're going to be tempted with 100% bad. Or if somebody is 20% bad, they're going to be tempted with 50% good. If you're 20% bad, you're going to be tempted with 20% good. And if you're 20% good, you're going to be tempted with 20% bad. It's a balance. It's like the scales of justice. Freedom and agency does not exist without that counter in place. And the role of the adversary is to provide the counter. Okay? The idea that a being or even a group of beings could wage war with God is, when you understand God, when you are able to feel him, and when you're able to have a vision of what he is, where he is, it's just laughable. Can there, you take a single ant, is there any situation where a war could exist between a human adult and that ant? A single ant, not a colony of ants and you being tied down an anthill, just you and a single ant. Is there ever going to be a scenario where there's a legitimate war between you and that ant? It can't do anything to you. And so to say that there's this ant that's opposing you is just, it's ridiculous. And to think that any fallen angel, I don't care how great they are nothing, absolutely nothing in comparison to God. I know people love their Satan. I think there's people out there that would be more upset about me taking away their Satan than taking away their Jesus. I mean, it's just, I don't understand why a person is going to be so hell-bent unless they want to say the devil made me do it. And as I showed with the role of adversity, if the devil is there to make a balance so that you have an equal opportunity to choose either side, good or evil, he didn't make you do anything. There is enough evil in this world with people doing evil things. We don't need the devil. You really don't need him. People are plenty evil enough without any extra influence. If that weren't the case, this world wouldn't have needed to be created. We all could have just stayed in heaven. Okay? The darkness is going to do what the darkness does. And as we try to entice the darkness to begin making good choices and to see the advantages of living in the light, it's going to take time. It's going to take generations upon generations upon generations. The history of this world is not about the evolution of mankind, but the evolution of the soul, the growth of the soul, and how the soul changes. So I don't want anyone to think that you're going to redeem all darkness. You take my example, what is the best we can truly hope for? How many can we redeem and have brought into light? Is there a way that the light could exist and live and have communities on earth, angelic? I mean, the things that an angel can do in heaven, for them to be able to do it here on earth, okay? If we transform this world, if we brought forward the millennium and we began to transform this world to a place of light, place of peace, would we be able to create areas where if somebody wants to live on, by their wits and live in the darkness, they want to participate with killing and murdering and all those things, is there a way that we can allow them their agency, their freedom to live and die and be reborn and live and die and keep going through that cycle, while at the same time having places of refuge, so that if any single person, they just have to say out loud, I no longer want to live in darkness, and boom, we can move them to a place of light and get them out of that situation. Can you imagine a world where you have that greatest light working towards sunset and sunrise, and then areas of darkness where we still allow people to make the choices they want to make? If somebody wants to live like a tribal in the middle of a desert being hunted by lions to prove how strong they are, we can allow that. It may seem strange, it may seem cruel, but if a person wants to live that way, we can't force the darkness to choose light. You can't force them. And it's not about strong-arming them. It is about a long-term commitment to offer a balance of choices. And that's it. The millennium would be about us having a place of light that would give us the ability to live in as much light as we desire, but also have places where they can live in as much darkness as they desire without having a war between the two. And so I just wanted to share some of those things. I just wanted to share that I understand that there are people that are doing evil things and that's what they want to do. I'm not trying to get them to choose light. I'm offering it, right? We are going to offer that as an option. It'll always be on the table. It'll never be taken off the table. But also, we need to begin working towards this greater light. We need to begin working from sunrise and sunset to noon, from the waning crescent and the waxing crescent to the full moon, from the spring equinox and fall equinox to summer solstice. We need to start moving towards the light. And in order to do that, we have to be able to start seeing the full picture. If you don't see all of what's happening around you, and you just get fixated on a single topic, we will never be able to stop the wars. And right now, I feel like God wants to warn you. You're being set up. The assassination of Charlie Kirk was designed, planned by some individuals in order to get conservative people to do some pretty unconservative things. The whole point of being conservative is that you're conservative in emotions, you're conservative in your ideas, you're conservative in your beliefs. And that's another thing I want to talk about. Any group or organization who believes in killing others because of beliefs that they hold is a bad organization. If you have an organization and there's just certain groups or sects of people within that organization that are willing to kill others because of their beliefs, then that sect or that part is evil. If you're trying to choose light, if you're willing to love others regardless of their beliefs, to treat everyone with respect regardless of what their beliefs are, then we can work together. But if you believe that it's okay and it's God ordained to eradicate any group based upon a belief, then that's bad. I don't care if it was the Catholic Church massacring people across the world, forcing them to believe in Jesus. I don't care if it is a group of people who practice Islam that believe in the eradication of the Jews. I don't care which group is working to eradicate an entire group of people just because of a difference in beliefs. You have the right to self-defense. If someone is trying to kill you, you have the right to defend yourself by force. It's sad, it's terrible that there are people who would rather die than to stop killing. It's sad. but we can't force them to make different choices. And so if the only way you can defend yourself is by taking a life, that should not be denied to you. You have a right to live, even if your beliefs don't match what other people believe. And if we want to have God guide us through this, then the first step is to start understanding other people's viewpoints. But we don't have to understand why someone wants to kill us. If you are not the one that's initiating the conflict, if you're not the one that says, I want to kill all orange people, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. If your goal is to kill every member of a group because of a belief they have, it's wrong. And we need to say it's wrong, and we need to admit that it's wrong. It is wrong to want to kill others just because they don't agree with you. It's wrong to drive through a neighborhood in a $200,000 sports car convertible with a $100,000 Rolex on your wrist and start flashing at people, and when they go to mug you, shoot them. That's wrong. You can't make yourself the victim just so that you can shoot somebody. It's wrong. And so we have to learn how to judge righteously, and we have to learn how to have God involved in those decisions in order that we can judge righteously. We've got to stop wanting to hurt each other, and we need to stop making our beliefs more important than life. We need to stop making our thoughts and ideas more important than creation. Because when you do that, you make your beliefs more important than God. Even if your beliefs are designed to supposedly bring you to God, if those beliefs are more important to you than God, what does that say? Anyway, I feel like I've rambled on long enough. I love you all. I really do want to find a way for us to invite God into our lives, invite God to shine his light through us individually and by extension this world. And I hope you all have a blessed day. Thank you for watching these videos.